I thought it was a standard Sunday dinner until I saw the listing agreement resting on the tablecloth. My address printed in bold. Mom smiled, claiming family assets should be shared, while my sister slapped her realtor card down, boasting about open houses. I did not scream. I simply nodded, then texted my lawyer to run a title search immediately. When the report arrived the next morning, I finally understood why they were so sure I could not say no. My name is Ella Ward, and up until 7 o'clock this evening, I labored under the delusion that I was an autonomous adult woman of 34 years. I believed that the deed to my home, recorded in the county clerk's office, meant exactly what it said. I believed that paying off a debt meant the ledger was closed. Most foolishly, I believed that a Sunday dinner invitation from my parents in Westbridge was simply a desire for my company. I parked my sedan in the driveway of the house I grew up in. It was a split-level beige structure that had not changed since the 90s. The lawn was manicured to an obsessive degree, a testament to my father's retirement boredom. Inside, the air smelled of lemon polish and old carpet, a scent that usually triggered a wave of nostalgia. Today, however, it felt sterile. There was no aroma of roast beef or garlic mashed potatoes, which was the first warning sign I ignored. "We are in the dining room, Ella," my mother's voice called out. It was not a greeting, it was a summons. I walked past the living room, noting that the television was off. My father, Mark Ward, was not in his recliner. He was sitting at the head of the mahogany dining table, his hands clasped over a manila folder. My mother, Evelyn, sat to his right. Opposite her was my sister, Marissa. Marissa was 2 years older than me and wore a blazer that was slightly too bright for a casual family gathering. She had a habit of trying to manifest success through wardrobe choices rather than actual work ethic. On the table, where the placemats and silverware should have been, lay a spread of documents that made the blood drain from my face, a stack of glossy flyers, a comparative market analysis, and right in the center, facing my empty chair, was a document titled Exclusive Right to Sell Listing Agreement. I stopped at the edge of the rug. My eyes locked onto the address typed in the upper right corner of the contract. It was my address, my house, the bungalow I had spent the last 5 years renovating with my own hands and my own salary. "Sit down, Ella," my mother said. She offered a tight, benevolent smile, the kind she used when she was volunteering at the church bake sale and wanted everyone to know how charitable she was being. "We have a lot to get through before dessert." I remained standing. My hand gripped the back of the wooden chair, my knuckles turning white. "Where is the food?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "I thought this was dinner." "This is better than dinner," Marissa chirped. She reached out and tapped a pen against the listing agreement. "This is a strategy meeting, and honestly, Ella, you should thank me. I pulled some incredible comps for your neighborhood. The market is correcting, but if we list by Friday, we can still catch the high end." I looked at my father. Mark refused to meet my gaze, focusing instead on a spot on the wall behind me. "Dad." He cleared his throat. "Your mother and I have been doing some thinking about the future, about the family assets." "My house is not a family asset," I said. My voice was low, steady, and entirely devoid of the warmth they likely expected. "My house is my asset. It is in my name, solely." "That is a technicality," Evelyn said, waving her hand as if swatting away a gnat. "We are a family. We help each other. When you bought that place 5 years ago, who gave you the down payment assistance? Who made it possible?" I felt a cold spike of adrenaline in my chest. "You loaned me $12,000, I stated clearly. "A loan? We signed a promissory note. I paid you back $200 a month for 5 years. I sent the final payment 4 months ago. I have the bank records." Evelyn exchanged a look with Mark, a look of practiced pity. "Oh, honey, we never cashed those checks. We put them aside. We considered that money an investment in the property, equity." "You absolutely cashed them," I countered. "I saw the deductions from my account every single month on the 15th. Do not gaslight me about my own finances." "You are being dramatic," Marissa cut in. She flipped open the folder in front of her. Look, the numbers do not lie. I can list it for $520,000. Do you have any idea what that does for us? After the mortgage payoff and closing costs, there is a net proceed of nearly $200,000. Mom and Dad get their share for the initial investment, plus appreciation. I take my commission, obviously, and you get a nice little nest egg to start over somewhere smaller, maybe an apartment. I stared at her. The audacity was so physical it felt like a slap. You want me to sell my home, my only home, so you can take a commission and Mom and Dad can cash out on a loan I already repaid. We are not asking you to sell, Mark said, finally looking at me. His face was hard, his jaw set. We have decided. It is best for the family. Marissa needs a strong listing to boost her numbers this quarter. Your mother and I need to liquidate some capital for upcoming expenses. It is selfish of you to hoard a 3-bedroom house all to yourself when the family has needs. Selfish? I laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. I pay the mortgage. I pay the taxes. I pay the insurance. I put on the new roof last year. Where was the family then? We provided the foundation, Evelyn snapped, losing her benevolent mask. Without that $12,000, you would still be renting. That money bought you the opportunity. That makes us partners, and partners share. I pulled the chair out and sat down, not to join them, but because my legs felt suddenly heavy, I needed to see exactly what they had prepared. I reached for the listing agreement. Marissa's hand shot out to cover it, but I was faster. I slid the paper toward me. It was fully filled out. The list price, $520,000. The commission split 6% total, 3% going to the listing agent Marissa Ward. The term 6 months. And then I saw the bottom of the page. There was a signature on the line for seller. It read, Ella Ward. It was a looped, cursive signature. It looked vaguely like mine, in the way a caricature looks like a real person. But I had not signed this. I had never seen this document before in my life. I looked up slowly. The room went very quiet. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall seemed deafening. Who signed this? I asked. Marissa shrugged, leaning back in her chair with a terrifying casualness. I handled it. It is just paperwork. Ella, I knew you would agree once you saw the numbers, so I saved us the time. I have a photographer coming tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, and I have 4 private showings lined up for Saturday. The listing goes live on the multiple listing service on Monday. You forged my signature, I said. It was not a question. I acted as your agent, Marissa corrected, her tone patronizing. Mom and Dad said it was okay. It is a family decision. Do not use ugly words like forgery. It is a crime, Marissa, I said. It is a felony. Oh, stop it, Evelyn hissed. She is your sister. She is trying to help you maximize your profit. Why do you always have to be so difficult? We raised you to be grateful. You raised me to be obedient, I corrected. There is a difference. I looked at the 3 of them. My father, the silent enforcer, my mother, the emotional architect, and Marissa, the incompetent executioner. They sat there, united in a delusion so complete that they truly believed they could sell a house they did not own, simply because they felt entitled to the money it would generate. You said you have showings booked. I asked Marissa. 4 of them, she bragged. Qualified buyers, pre-approved for over $550,000. This house is going to fly. Ella, you should be thanking me. I am doing all the legwork. Cancel them, I said. Marissa laughed. I cannot cancel them. I would look unprofessional. The photographer is already paid for. It is non-refundable. I do not care, I said. If anyone steps foot on my property, I will call the police for trespassing. You would arrest your own family. Mark slammed his hand on the table, rattling the papers. After everything we have done for you, that $12,000 was a sacrifice. It was a loan, I yelled back, my composure cracking for the first time. I have the amortization schedule. I have the emails from you, Dad, acknowledging the final payment. How dare you sit there and try to rewrite history because you need cash? We are not rewriting history, Evelyn said, her voice trembling with manufactured hurt. We are simply claiming our fair share. The house has appreciated. We deserve 40% of that growth. It is only fair. 40%. I stared at her. You think a $12,000 loan 5 years ago entitles you to $200,000 of my equity today? It is family math, Marissa said, smirking. You wouldn't understand. You work in what is it you do again? Data entry. They thought I was a clerk. They thought I did remote administrative tasks. I had never corrected them because I valued my privacy. And frankly, they never asked enough questions to learn the truth. I stood up. I did not shove the chair back. I did not sweep the papers off the table. Though the urge to destroy the evidence of their betrayal was nearly overwhelming, I needed that evidence intact. I am leaving, I said. You cannot leave, Marissa said, her eyes widening. We need to stage the living room. I need you to go home and declutter, move the personal photos, hide the dog bowl, make it look like a model home. Marissa, I said, leaning in close enough to see the heavy foundations settling into the lines around her eyes. If you list my house, you will lose your license. Mom, Marissa whined, turning to Evelyn. She is threatening me. Ella, sit down, Mark commanded. We are not finished. I am, I said. Do not come to my house. Do not send a photographer, and do not ever forge my signature again. I turned and walked out. If you walk out that door, my mother shouted after me, her voice shrill and echoing in the hallway. Do not expect a Christmas invite. You are tearing this family apart over money greed, Ella pure greed. I grabbed my purse from the entry table. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a rage so cold it felt like ice in my veins. I opened the front door and stepped out into the cool evening air of Westbridge. The sun had set, leaving the sky a bruised purple. I marched to my car, unlocked it, and slid into the driver's seat. I locked the doors immediately, as if they might come running out with pens and contracts to force my hand physically. I did not start the engine. Instead, I pulled out my phone. My fingers hovered over the contacts list. I scrolled past Mom, past Dad, past Marissa. I found the name I needed, Owen Price. Owen was not just a lawyer. He was a shark in a tailored suit, a man I had worked with professionally in my capacity as a director of risk compliance, a title my family knew nothing about. He specialized in real estate fraud and litigation. I pressed call. It rang twice. Ella? Owen's voice was crisp, surprising for a Sunday evening. Everything okay? No, I said. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, flat, mechanical. I need you to run a title search on my property immediately, tonight, if you can access the digital records, first thing in the morning if you cannot. What is going on? Owen asked, his tone shifting instantly from casual to professional. My parents and my sister just presented me with a listing agreement for my house, I said, staring at the front door of my parents' house through the windshield. I saw the silhouette of my father peering out through the curtains. They claim they have ownership because of a loan I paid off years ago. Marissa says she has already scheduled showings. Did you sign anything? Owen asked sharply. No, I said. But Marissa did. She signed my name. She admitted it to my face. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Okay, Ella, listen to me. Go home. Do not let anyone in. If they have a key, change the locks tonight. I will pull the title history. If they are this confident, I am worried they might have done more than just draft a listing agreement. What do you mean? I asked. I mean, Owen said, people who forge signatures on listing agreements usually do not stop there. I will check the county recorder. We need to see if they have filed anything against the deed, a lien, a claim of interest, anything. Okay, I whispered. Owen, yeah. They said family property is shared, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Legally, Owen said. That is nonsense. We will stop them. Ella, go home. Lock the door. I ended the call and started the car. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw the front door open. Marissa stepped out, waving a paper in the air, yelling something I could not hear through the glass. I put the car in drive and didn't look back. They thought they were dealing with the pushover daughter who did data entry. They thought the family card was a trump card that superseded the law. They were about to learn that in the real world, a forged signature is not a family squabble. It is the first step toward a prison sentence. And I was no longer their daughter. I was the plaintiff. The morning sun hit the front of my house with a deceptive cheerfulness that felt entirely inappropriate for a Saturday destined to be a disaster. I had spent the night sleeping in shifts, waking at every creak of the floorboards, half expecting my father to be standing in the hallway with a crowbar and a lecture about family loyalty. But the night had passed in silence. The threat, it turned out, was not going to be a covert break-in. It was going to be a public spectacle. I was standing in my kitchen, clutching a mug of black coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, when I heard the distinct crunch of tires on gravel. My driveway was long enough that I usually had a few seconds of warning before anyone reached the front door. I moved to the living room window, peering through the slats of the blinds I had deliberately kept closed. A silver SUV, branded with a large magnetic decal on the side door, pulled in. It was followed closely by a smaller, red sedan. My stomach turned over. The magnetic decal read, Marissa Ward, Premier Real Estate. She had actually come. I watched as my sister stepped out of the driver's seat. She was dressed for war, or at least, what she imagined a high-stakes real estate war looked like. She wore a cream-colored pantsuit that was likely intended to project authority, but mostly just looked uncomfortable in the morning heat. She checked her reflection in the side mirror, adjusting her hair, before turning to greet the occupants of the red sedan. A couple stepped out. They looked young, perhaps in their late 20s, holding hands and scanning the facade of my house with wide, hopeful eyes. Behind them, a man with a tripod and a heavy camera bag climbed out of Marissa's passenger seat. The photographer. The audacity was so absolute that for a moment, I was paralyzed. It is one thing to threaten to sell someone's house during a private family argument. It is an entirely different level of delusion to actually show up with clients and a photographer, acting as if the deed is already signed and the keys are in your pocket. I heard Marissa's voice drift through the glass, pitched high and bright, her customer service voice. Great bones, she was saying, gesturing expansively at my porch. Just incredible curb appeal. The landscaping was done professionally, of course. And wait until you see the natural light in the foyer. She began walking up the path, her heels clicking rhythmically on the concrete. The couple followed, the husband pointing at my roof, the wife whispering something that made them both smile. They thought they were about to see their dream home. They had no idea they were walking into a crime scene. I heard the sound of a key sliding into the lock. There was a pause, then the jiggle of the handle, then a more aggressive twisting sound. I had called a locksmith at 10 o'clock the previous night. It had cost me $300 for the emergency service, but hearing the confusion on the other side of that door made it worth every penny. That is strange, Marissa muttered, loud enough for me to hear. The key is sticking. These older locks can be temperamental. She rattled the door handle violently. Just give me a second. Folks, humidity makes the wood expand. I unlocked the deadbolt from the inside and threw the door open. Marissa stumbled forward slightly, caught off guard by the sudden lack of resistance. She regained her balance quickly, her face flashing with annoyance before she remembered her audience. She plastered a tight, strained smile onto her face. "Ella!" she exclaimed, laughing a little too loudly. "Oh, thank goodness. I thought you might have run out for errands. I was just telling the Millers here about how quiet the neighborhood is." She tried to step past me, ushering the couple forward with a wave of her hand. "Come on in, guys. Let's get you out of the sun." I did not move. I planted my feet on the threshold, my hand gripping the door frame. I blocked the entrance completely. "Ella," Marissa hissed, her smile faltering. "Move. We are on a schedule. The photographer has another shoot at 11. No, I said. The word hung in the air, heavy and absolute. The couple, the Millers, stopped halfway up the steps. The husband looked confused, his eyes darting between Marissa and me. The photographer, standing on the lawn, sighed and set his tripod down, looking like he had seen this happen a dozen times before. "Excuse me," Marissa said, her voice dropping to a whisper that was meant to be threatening. "Do not do this. Do not embarrass me right now." "You are embarrassing yourself," I said, my voice steady. "I told you last night, this house is not for sale." Marissa's face turned a mottled shade of red. She stepped closer, invading my personal space, hoping her proximity would force me to retreat into the house. It was a bullying tactic she had used since we were teenagers. It did not work anymore. "I have clients here," she gritted out through her teeth. "I have a contract. Mom and Dad are counting on this. Now, step aside. Go to your room, or go to a coffee shop. I need to stage the living room. Why are the blinds still closed? I told you to open everything up so it looks spacious." She looked over my shoulder, scanning the interior. "And that coat rack needs to go. It is clutter. Move it to the garage." She was ordering me around in my own home. She was treating me like a squatter who was inconveniently occupying her listing. "Marissa," I said loudly, ensuring the couple on the steps could hear every syllable. "You do not have a contract. You have a piece of paper you forged. You have no authority to enter this property." The wife took a step back, her hand tightening on her husband's arm. Is there a problem?" she asked. Marissa spun around to face them, her smile returning with terrifying speed. "No, not at all. My sister is just very attached to the home. It is an emotional process, selling a first home. She is having a bit of a moment. Just give us 2 minutes to sort out the logistics." She turned back to me, her eyes manic. "You are ruining this," she whispered furiously. "Do you know how hard it is to find qualified buyers in this interest rate environment? These people are pre-approved for $540,000. Do not be an idiot. Let them in." "I am going to call the police," I said. Marissa froze. "You wouldn't?" "I absolutely would," I said. "Trespass. Attempted breaking and entering. Fraud." "I am your sister," she shrieked, forgetting to whisper. "I am trying to help you. You are so selfish." The cringe factor was off the charts. I could feel the neighbors watching from behind their curtains. This was the scene I had dreaded, the airing of dirty laundry on the front lawn, but I knew that if I gave an inch, Marissa would take the entire house. I looked past Marissa, directly at the Millers. I softened my expression. It was not their fault they had been dragged into Marissa's fantasy. "I am so sorry," I said to them. "I apologize for wasting your Saturday morning. My sister has misled you. I am the sole owner of this property. It is not for sale. It has never been for sale. There is a significant legal dispute occurring regarding her right to represent this property." The husband looked at Marissa, his expression hardening. "You said you had the exclusive right to sell. You said the owner was eager to close quickly. She is," Marissa insisted, waving her hands frantically. "She is just being difficult today. It is a family negotiation tactic. We can still view the property. Once she sees the offer you are going to make, she will calm down. Ignore her." "We are not going to ignore the owner blocking the door," the wife said coldly. "We are not getting involved in a probate dispute or whatever this is." "It is not probate," Marissa yelled. "She is alive. She is just ungrateful." "We are leaving," the husband said. He took his wife's hand and they turned around, walking briskly back to their red sedan. "Wait." Marissa chased after them a few steps. "I have another property on Elm Street. We can go there right now, or we can come back here in an hour when she has cooled off." The car doors slammed shut, the engine roared to life, and the Millers backed out of the driveway with impressive speed. They did not look back. The photographer picked up his tripod. "I am still billing you for the hour. Marissa, call me when you actually have the listing signed." He walked to his car, shaking his head. Marissa stood alone on the concrete path. Her shoulders were heaving, The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the sound of a distant lawnmower. She turned slowly to face me. The look in her eyes was pure venom. The mask of the professional realtor had shattered completely, leaving only the petulant, desperate sibling underneath. "You happy?" she screamed. She threw her hands up. "You just cost the family $20,000 in commission alone. That was a done deal, Ella. They loved the photos. They were ready to write an offer today. They loved photos of a house you do not have the right to sell," I said. "It is Mom and Dad's house, too," she shouted, stomping up the stairs until she was nose to nose with me again. "They put the money in, that makes it ours. Why can you not get that through your thick skull?" "Marissa," I asked, my voice dropping to a calm, analytical register. "You are a licensed agent, or at least, you claim to be. You know the law." "I know more about real estate than you ever will," she scoffed. "I am a top producer." "If you are a professional," I said, "then you know the first step before listing a property is verifying the deed. Did you run a title search?" Marissa blinked. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her gaze shifted to the left, avoiding my eyes. It was a tell she had had since she was 6 years old and stole cookies from the jar. "Well," I pressed, "did you pull the title report from the county recorder?" "I did not need to," she stammered. "Mom told me. She said it was all taken care of. She said their names were on the deed from the beginning. Why would I waste money on a title search when I have my mother's word?" I stared at her. The incompetence was staggering. She had staked her professional reputation, her license, and potential criminal charges on a conversation with our mother, without checking a single public record. "You listed a $500,000 asset based on hearsay," I asked. "You brought clients to a home without verifying who actually owns it." "It is not hearsay," she yelled, though her voice wavered. "It is family. Mom said they have the papers. They have a quitclaim deed or something. They filed it years ago." My blood ran cold. A quitclaim deed. The words hung in the air like toxic smoke. A quitclaim deed is a document used to transfer interest in property, often between family members. If my parents had told Marissa they had a quitclaim deed, and if they had filed it years ago, that meant one of two things: either they were lying to her to get her to do their dirty work, or there was a document out there with my signature on it that I had never signed. "What quitclaim deed?" I asked sharply. "I never signed a quitclaim." "Mom said you did," Marissa shouted, tears of frustration welling in her eyes. "She said you guys handled it when you bought the place, just in case something happened to you, so they would be protected. She said it is on file." "If it is on file," I said, "why did you forge my signature on the listing agreement yesterday if they own it? Why did you need me to be the seller?" Marissa froze again. The logic trap snapped shut. If my parents were on the deed, they could have signed the listing. The fact that Marissa forged my signature meant she knew, on some level, that the title was still in my name, or she was so confused by our parents' lies that she was just flailing. "I just wanted to streamline it," she mumbled. "I did not want to bother Dad with the paperwork. He gets stressed." "Go home, Marissa," I said. "You are going to regret this," she sobbed, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "You are destroying this family over a pile of bricks. Get off my property," I said, "and tell Mom and Dad that if I see one more person show up here, I am filing a restraining order." I stepped back and slammed the door. I locked the deadbolt. My hands were shaking again. I leaned my back against the wood, listening. I heard Marissa scream a word that I will not repeat, followed by the sound of her car door slamming. Her engine revved aggressively, and tires squealed on the asphalt as she peeled out of the driveway. Silence returned to the house. But it was not peaceful. It was the silence of a bomb that had not yet detonated, but was counting down, a quitclaim deed. Marissa was not smart enough to invent that specific legal term on the fly. She had heard it from our parents. I pushed myself off the door and ran to the kitchen table where my laptop was sitting. I woke the screen and opened my email client. I started a new message to Owen Price. Subject urgent. Potential forgery. Title issue. Owen. Marissa just tried to force entry for a showing. I turned them away, but she said something that changes everything. She claims Mom and Dad told her there is a quitclaim deed on file transferring ownership interest to them. I never signed a quitclaim. I never authorized a transfer. She admitted she did not run a title search because she trusted them. But if they are claiming this document exists, and that it was filed, we are not just dealing with a listing agreement forgery. We might be dealing with a recorded fraudulent instrument. Please tell me you can see the registry history remotely. I need to know what is recorded against my house. Now. Ella. I hit send. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering against my ribs. In my line of work, we had a saying, fraud is never an isolated incident. It is a process. If my parents had forged a deed, they had not just stolen my house, they had stolen my identity, and they had done it while smiling across the dinner table for years. To my parents, I am a digital nomad with a precarious income. They believe I spend my days answering emails for disjointed startups or transcribing audio files for pennies on the dollar. When they ask about my work, I give them vague answers about consulting and administrative support. They usually nod with that specific brand of parental disappointment reserved for children who they believe have failed to launch, despite owning a home. They think my lack of a flashy office and a company car means I am vulnerable, financially illiterate, and desperate for their guidance. It is the greatest advantage I possess. In reality, I am the Director of Risk Compliance for Crescent Vale Advisory. My firm does not handle data entry. We handle forensic accounting and regulatory oversight for mid-sized financial institutions. My entire career is built on detecting patterns that other people miss. I spend 40 hours a week hunting for embezzlement, money laundering, and the subtle shifting architecture of fraud. I know exactly how people hide money. I know exactly how they forge documents, and I know exactly how they panic when the paper trail starts to close in around them. I sat at my dining room table, not as a daughter, but as an auditor. The emotional betrayal I had felt on the porch was shoved into a mental box, taped shut, and shoved to the back of my mind. There would be time to cry later. Now was the time to build a file. I opened my laptop and logged into my secure work server. Not because this was company business, but because I needed the encryption tools. Then, I retrieved the physical banker's box from the top shelf of my closet. I am meticulous about record keeping. It is a professional hazard. I pulled out the file labeled Property Acquisition, 2019. Inside was the history of the lie my parents were currently telling. I laid the documents out in chronological order. First, the purchase agreement, then, the mortgage approval from the bank, solely in my name, and finally, the document that would be their undoing, the promissory note. 5 years ago, when I was short on the closing costs, my parents had offered the $12,000. I had hesitated. I knew money made blood relation complicated, but my father, Mark, had insisted. He had called it a bridge loan, to ensure there was no confusion. I had drafted a formal promissory note. I smoothed the paper out. It was signed by me, Mark, and Evelyn. The terms were clear. $12,000 principal, interest rate of 3%, monthly payments of $200 until the balance was satisfied. There was no clause about equity. There was no language about shared ownership or family investment. It was a debt instrument, plain and simple. Next, I opened my banking portal. I filtered the search results for the last 60 months. I exported the data into a spreadsheet every single month on the 15th. A transfer of $200 went from my account to a joint account held by Mark and Evelyn Ward. I highlighted the final payment, dated 4 months ago. The memo line read, "Loan payoff, final." But I needed more. I needed to prove they accepted this narrative before they decided to rewrite it. I dug into my email archive. I searched for loan and dad. I found it. An email from 3 years ago. Subject payment adjustment. From Mark Ward to Ella Ward. Ella, Mom and I were looking at the inflation rates. The 3% we agreed on is really below market value now. Since the family is essentially losing money by lending this to you, We think it is fair if you add an extra $50 a month to the transfer to cover the cost of money. Let us know. I stared at the screen. I remembered this. I had been annoyed, but I had paid it. I had sent them a lump sum of $600 at the end of that year to shut them up. I printed the email. This was critical. You do not ask for interest adjustments on an equity investment. You ask for interest on a loan, by demanding more interest. My father had cemented the nature of the transaction. He had treated me like a bank customer, not a partner. My phone buzzed. It was Owen Price. "Talk to me," I said, putting the phone on speaker as I organized the stack of evidence. "I am initiating the title search now." Owen said. His voice was clipped, the sound of a keyboard clacking furiously in the background. "But it is Saturday. The county recorder's office is closed. I can access the digital index, but the actual scanned images might not be available until Monday morning. However, we are not waiting." "I have the proof." "Owen," I said, "I have the promissory note. I have the bank statements showing full repayment. I even have an email where Dad tries to gouge me for extra interest." "Good," Owen said. "Scan them. Upload them to the secure portal I just sent you. But right now, we need to stop the bleeding. If Marissa believes there is a quitclaim deed, and if she is reckless enough to list the house, we have to assume they might try to leverage the property in other ways." "Like what?" I asked. "Loans." Owen said, "If they think they own it, or if they have forged a deed that says they own it, they could try to take out a second mortgage or a home equity line of credit, a HELOC." The blood drained from my face. My house had significant equity. If they managed to open a line of credit against it, they could drain the value and leave me with the debt. What do I do? "You need to lock it down," Owen instructed. "Call your current mortgage servicer immediately. Tell them you have reason to believe you are a victim of familial identity theft and real estate fraud. Ask them to place a fraud alert on the file. No changes, no inquiries, no payoff requests without verbal verification and a password." "Got it," I said, typing the number for the bank as he spoke. "Then," Owen continued, "I want you to go to the credit bureaus, freeze your credit, if they have your social security number, which they do, because they are your parents. They might try to open accounts in your name to facilitate this." "I will do it," I said. "And Ella." Owen paused. "I am setting up a title monitor. It is a service that alerts us the second anything is filed against your parcel number, a lien, a deed, a permit application, anything. Do you think they have gone that far?" I asked. "It is one thing to lie to Marissa. It is another to file forged documents with the government. Marissa said they told her it was on file," Owen reminded me. "In my experience, liars like to have a prop to support their lie. I would be surprised if there isn't a piece of paper somewhere." We hung up. I spent the next 2 hours in a hellscape of automated customer service menus. "I need to speak to the fraud department," I told the representative at my mortgage company, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and humiliation. "Can you describe the nature of the suspicion?" "Ma'am," the operator asked, "my parents are attempting to sell my home without my permission," I said, the words feeling heavy and absurd. "They claim to have ownership documents. I believe they may have forged a deed. I need to ensure no one can access the equity in this home." There was a long silence on the other end. "I understand. Ms. Ward, I am flagging the account now. We will require a notarized affidavit from you. But for now, the account is locked." After I finished freezing my credit at all 3 bureaus, I sat back and looked at the pile of papers on my table. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the living room that Marissa had tried to stage. I felt a profound sense of isolation. This was not just a dispute about money, it was a coordinated attack. I began to map it out on a notepad, using the same timeline technique I used at work to track embezzlers. 6 months ago, Marissa's real estate listings dry up. I needed to verify this, but she had been complaining about the market endlessly. 4 months ago, I make the final loan payment. My parents lose their monthly income stream from me. 1 month ago, my parents start asking weird questions about the house. Did you fix the roof yet? What is the neighborhood selling for? Yesterday, the ambush. It was a script. They had planned this. The listing agreement Marissa brought wasn't drafted on a napkin. It was typed, printed, and ready. The photographer was booked days in advance. You do not book a real estate photographer for a Saturday morning on a Friday night. They are booked weeks out. This meant they had been discussing selling my home for weeks, maybe months, while I was visiting for Sunday dinners, while I was buying them birthday gifts, while I was being their dutiful daughter. They had looked me in the eye, eaten the food I brought, and calculated exactly how much my life was worth to them. $520,000, minus closing costs. I felt sick, but the sickness was quickly replaced by a cold resolve. I was good at my job. I was very good at my job. And my parents had just made the mistake of becoming the target of my investigation. I went back to the email Owen had mentioned. He had sent a link to the county recorder's public access site. It was a clunky government website, usually slow to update. I typed in my address, owner Ella Ward. I let out a breath. Okay, the primary index still showed me as the owner. Maybe Marissa was just lying. Maybe there was no quitclaim deed. Maybe it was just a bluff to bully me into signing. I refreshed the page. Then, my phone chimed. It was a text from Owen. Owen, are you sitting down? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Ella, yes. What is it, Owen? My contact at the title company just ran a gap check for me. It catches filings that have been submitted but haven't been fully indexed by the county clerk yet. The stuff sitting in the to-be-processed pile. I stared at the 3 dots dancing on the screen, waiting for his next message. The silence in the house was deafening. Owen. There is a quitclaim deed. It was stamped, received by the recorder's office 22 days ago. I stopped breathing. 22 days ago, I was at work. I was nowhere near a notary. Owen and Ella. There is something else, filed the same day, a request for notice of default. Ella. What does that mean? Owen, it means someone is preparing to take out a loan against the property and wants to be notified if you stop paying your mortgage. But that's not the worst part. Owen, the quitclaim transfers 40% interest to Mark and Evelyn Ward, but the grantor signature, the person who signed it, was notarized in a county 3 hours away, a place called Oak Haven. Oak Haven. I had never been to Oak Haven, but I knew who lived there, an old friend of my father's from his army days, a man who had lost his notary license once before for administrative errors. Owen. This is not just a dispute anymore. Ella, this is a felony in progress. They didn't just list the house. They have already stolen 40% of it on paper. I looked at the clean, beautiful deed I had framed on my wall, the one that said I owned this house. It was now a lie, somewhere, in a government basement. A piece of paper with a forged version of my name was sitting in a stack, waiting to turn my life upside down. My parents hadn't just listed my house. They had already executed the heist. They were just waiting for the check to clear. I picked up the phone and typed one sentence to Owen. Ella burned them down. The Sunday morning sun felt intrusive as it streamed onto my kitchen island, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. It was the same table where I drank my coffee every morning, but today, it had been transformed into a war room. Owen Price stood opposite me. He had arrived 10 minutes ago, bypassing the usual pleasantries. He wore a charcoal suit, immaculately pressed, which made him look out of place in my cozy, open-concept kitchen. He carried a leather briefcase that looked heavy, not with physical weight, but with the gravity of what was inside. He unzipped the case and began to lay out documents. The sound of paper sliding against the granite countertop was sharp and distinct. It was a visual echo of the dinner at my parents' house just 2 nights prior, but the dynamic had shifted entirely. At their table, I had been the ambush victim. At my table, I was the auditor. Coffee, I asked, my hand hovering over the pot. No, Owen said, his voice flat. You need to see this. He placed a single sheet of paper in the center of the island. It was a copy of a document, grainy from being scanned and downloaded from the county's digital repository. This is the current grant deed. Owen said. "It is the original one recorded when you bought the house 5 years ago. Look at the grantee." I looked. Ella Ward, a single woman. "Clean," I said. "Just as I thought." "Right," Owen nodded. He reached into his folder and pulled out a second document. He placed it directly on top of the first one. "Now look at this." This document was different. The header was bold and dark. Quitclaim deed. My stomach dropped. I leaned in, bracing my hands against the counter to steady myself. Date of recording. Owen pointed a manicured finger at the stamp in the top right corner. 22 days ago, I read the text. It was standard legal boilerplate. The kind of language designed to be boring so you do not notice what is being stolen from you. For valuable consideration, receipt of which is hereby acknowledged. Ella Ward does hereby remise, release, and forever quitclaim to Mark Ward and Evelyn Ward, husband and wife, as joint tenants, an undivided 40% interest in the real property described as follows: 40%. They had not tried to take the whole thing. They had calculated exactly how much they could take without triggering an immediate tax reassessment or perhaps raising too many flags. 40% of my home. Based on the valuation Marissa had thrown around, that was over $200,000 of equity they had assigned to themselves with a stroke of a pen. "I did not sign this," I whispered. "I know," Owen said. "Look at the signature line." I looked. There, above the printed name, Ella Ward, was a scribble. It was my name, but it was not my hand. The E was too looped. The W was sharp, aggressive. It looked like the signature of someone trying to copy my style from memory, but failing to capture the fluidity of it. It looked like a forgery done by someone whose hands were shaking. "It is clumsy," I said, tracing the air above the ink. "That is not even close to my signature on the mortgage papers." "It does not have to be close," Owen said grimly. "It just has to be notarized. The county clerk does not analyze handwriting. They check for the notary seal. If the stamp is valid, the document is valid." He tapped the bottom of the page. "Look at the notary acknowledgement." I squinted at the seal. State of Colorado, County of Oakhaven. Oakhaven. I looked up at Owen. "That is 3 hours south of here. I have not been to Oakhaven since I was in college." "Exactly," Owen said. "Unless you drove 6 hours round trip on a Tuesday 3 weeks ago to sign away nearly half your net worth, this is fraud. And not just simple fraud. This is filing a false instrument with a government body. It is a felony." I felt a wave of nausea. "Who is the notary?" "A man named Gary Sunev," Owen said. "I looked him up. He is independent, works out of a strip mall postal center, and get this, he served in the same infantry division as your father in the 90s. I closed my eyes. Of course, my father's old network, the I scratch your back, you scratch mine club. Gary Sunev probably thought he was doing a buddy a favor, helping him sort out some family paperwork. He probably didn't ask why the daughter wasn't present. "So, they own 40% of my house," I said, my voice trembling. "Legally, right now, they own it. On paper, yes," Owen said. "But we can undo it. We file a quiet title action. We prove the forgery. We get the notary to flip on them. It takes time, but we win." He paused. He picked up the third document, which he had been holding back. "However," Owen said, his tone dropping an octave, "that is not the emergency. What could possibly be worse than them stealing 40% of my house?" I asked. Owen slid the third paper across the granite. "This," he said. It was a document I recognized from my work in banking compliance. It was a notice of right to cancel, usually included in loan packages, but attached to it was a loan application summary. Borrower Mark Ward and Evelyn Ward. Co-borrower Ella Ward, non-occupant. Collateral, my address. My address. Loan type. Home equity line of credit. HELOC. Amount requested, $150,000. Status. Pending final underwriting. The room seemed to tilt. "A HELOC," I said. "They are taking out a line of credit. They applied for it the same day they filed the quitclaim." Owen explained, his voice rapid and urgent. That is why they needed the 40% interest. You cannot borrow against a house you do not own by transferring ownership to themselves. They became eligible to apply for a loan secured by the property's equity. But I am listed as a co-borrower, I said, pointing to my name. They would need my signature for the loan, too. If they forged the deed, Owen said, looking me dead in the eye. They have almost certainly forged the loan application documents, or they are using a power of attorney they fabricated. I stared at the number. $150,000. Why? I asked, the question escaping me before I could stop it. Why would they do this, the listing Marissa trying to sell it? I thought they just wanted the profit from a sale, but this is debt. This is a lien. Think like a risk officer. Ella, Owen said. Selling a house takes months. You have to stage it, list it, wait for offers, go through escrow. It is slow. A HELOC. If you have the equity and the credit score, you can close in 10 days. You get a checkbook or a debit card linked to the house, and you can draw the cash immediately. It clicked. The pieces fell into place with a sickening thud. They were desperate. They weren't just greedy parents who felt entitled to a return on their investment. They were in some kind of financial hole, a deep one, and they needed cash fast. The listing of the house was likely Plan B, or perhaps a way to pay off the HELOC later. But the HELOC was the immediate goal. They wanted to turn my home into an ATM. If this loan funds, I said, my voice steadying into the cold, hard cadence of my profession, and they take the money and spend it, I am liable. You are, Owen confirmed. The lien attaches to the house. If they default, and they will default, the bank forecloses, you lose the house, or you have to pay back the $150,000 yourself. I looked at the status pending final mile underwriting. We have to stop it, I said. Right now. I have already drafted the letter, Owen said. He opened his briefcase again and pulled out a crisp letterhead document. This is a notice of fraud and demand to cease and desist. It is addressed to the lender listed on the application, Centennial Trust. Is it enough? I asked. It is a start, Owen said. But we need to go nuclear. We need to file a lis pendens tomorrow morning. That is a formal notice of legal action regarding the title. No bank in the world will fund a loan on a property with a lis pendens attached. It freezes everything. Do it, I said. And Ella, Owen said softly, you need to file a police report. I looked at him. A police report against my parents. They committed forgery, Owen said. They are attempting grand larceny. If we do not have a police report number, the bank might treat this as a civil domestic dispute and drag their feet. We need the criminal element to force an immediate freeze. I looked out the window at my front lawn. The grass was green. The hydrangeas were blooming. I had planted them myself. I had painted the shutters. I had sanded the floors. This was my sanctuary, and my parents, the people who were supposed to protect me, had looked at this sanctuary and seen nothing but a pile of cash to be looted. They didn't care if I ended up homeless. They didn't care if my credit was ruined. They viewed me as collateral. I thought about the dinner, the way my mother had smiled. Family assets should be shared. She wasn't talking about sharing wealth. She was talking about sharing ruin. She wanted to drag me down into whatever financial grave they had dug for themselves. They aren't just trying to sell the house, I said, realizing the full horror of the timeline. Marissa trying to sell it was a distraction. Or maybe she doesn't even know about the HELOC. If she sells it, the HELOC gets paid off at closing, and no one is the wiser. But if she doesn't sell it, they drain the equity anyway. It is a two-pronged attack, Owen agreed. Either way, they cash out. Either way, you lose. I turned back to Owen. The hesitation was gone. The daughter was gone. Give me the phone, I said. Owen handed me his mobile. Who are we calling? He asked. The lender, I said. I don't care if it is Sunday. I don't care if I have to talk to an automated system for an hour. I am going to find someone at Centennial Trust, and I am going to tell them that if they disperse one single penny to Mark and Evelyn Ward, I will sue them for negligence so severe they will lose their charter. Owen smiled. A sharp, shark-like grin. That is the spirit. While you do that, I am going to draft the affidavit for the police. We go to the station at noon. I took the phone. I looked at the papers on the counter one last time. The forged signature seemed to mock me. It was a violation of the highest order. It was identity theft with a hug and a kiss. I dialed the number for the bank's fraud hotline. "This is Ella Ward," I said when the operator picked up. "I am the owner of the property at my address. You have a loan application pending in my name. It is fraudulent. The deed you relied on is a forgery, and the people applying for this money are not authorized to act on my behalf. Ma'am, I need to verify your identity," the voice on the other end said. "Ask me anything," I said. "But mark the file. If that money leaves your bank, you are facilitating a felony." I hung up and looked at Owen. "Let's go to the police station," I said. "I want it on the record. I want a paper trail so thick they will never be able to climb out of it. This was not a family dispute anymore. This was a financial crime, and I was the lead investigator." The adrenaline of Sunday had faded into a cold, sharp clarity by Monday morning. I had taken the day off from Crescent Vale Advisory. I told my boss I was dealing with a family emergency involving identity theft, which was the most honest explanation I could provide without sounding like I was describing the plot of a bad movie. Owen was still operating out of my kitchen. He had turned my breakfast bar into a command center, complete with 2 monitors and a direct line to his paralegal. We had filed the police report. We had notified the bank. The bleeding had been stopped, or at least, a tourniquet had been applied. Now, we had to find the source of the infection, and all signs pointed to Marissa. "Ella," Owen said, his eyes glued to his laptop screen. "Come look at this." I walked over, expecting to see another horrifying document from the county recorder. Instead, I saw the blue and white interface of the Colorado Division of Real Estate's public license lookup tool. "I decided to do a deep dive on your sister's professional standing," Owen said. Since she was so adamant about her status as a top producer on Saturday, he pointed to the status line next to Marissa Ward. In bold red letters, it read, "Inactive." "She is not licensed," I asked, frowning, "but she has a magnetic sign on her car. She has business cards. She showed up with clients." "Her license expired 8 months ago," Owen corrected. "She failed to complete her mandatory continuing education hours. In Colorado, if you do not do your update course and your ethics credits, you get placed on inactive status. You cannot list, you cannot show, you cannot negotiate, you certainly cannot collect a commission." I stared at the screen. 8 months. That was a lifetime in real estate. "So how is she listing houses?" I asked. "How is she planning to put mine on the multiple listing service?" "I checked the local board logs," Owen said, switching tabs. "She isn't listing them as Marissa Ward. She is logging in under the ID of an agent named Sarah Jenkins." "Who is Sarah Jenkins?" "A junior agent at Marissa's old brokerage who went on maternity leave 6 months ago," Owen explained. "Marissa must have kept her credentials. She is ghosting her listings. She does the work, puts Sarah's name on the contract, and likely works out a kickback deal under the table. It is a massive violation. It is misrepresentation. It is fraud." "Why would she risk that?" I asked. "Why not just take the classes and renew the license?" "Because the classes cost money," Owen said. "And renewing a license requires paying back dues, and if she has outstanding fines, she has to pay those too." He opened a PDF file. "Which brings me to this. I found 2 consumer complaints filed against Marissa in the last 2 years. They were settled privately, likely to avoid a hearing, but the notes are in the system." I leaned in closer. Complaint 1. Failure to disclose material defects. Complaint 2. Misrepresentation of title authority. "Read the second one," Owen instructed. I read the summary. "Agent attempted to facilitate a sale of a property where the seller was in the midst of a divorce and did not have spousal consent to list. Agent assured the buyer the paperwork was cleared when it was not." "She has a pattern," I said. "She plays fast and loose with ownership. She thinks if she can just get the buyer to the table, The legal stuff will magically sort itself out. Exactly, Owen said. She is not a mastermind. Ella, she is a gambler, and she is on a losing streak. I walked over to the window, looking out at the driveway where Marissa had parked her shiny new Audi SUV on Saturday, the car she had made such a big deal about at Christmas. She bought a $60,000 car in December, I said, thinking aloud. She went to Cabo for 10 days in February. She posts photos of expensive dinners constantly. And yet, Owen said, she cannot afford the $300 to renew her license. It didn't add up, or rather, it added up perfectly to a disaster. She is broke, I realized. She is living on credit. She is funding a top producer lifestyle on zero income. That is why she is desperate. And that, Owen said, is why she needs your house. She does not just want the commission, she needs the liquidity. If Mom and Dad get the equity loan, or if they sell the house, Marissa probably has a side deal with them to take a chunk of that cash to pay off her debts. My parents are drowning, so she convinced them to drown me too, I said. The bitterness in my voice was acrid. I needed to know for sure. I needed to see the mechanism of the lie. I went to my laptop. I didn't have access to Marissa's email, and I certainly didn't have access to her bank accounts, but I did have access to my mother's digital naivety. My mother, Evelyn, was technologically illiterate. 2 years ago, she had locked herself out of her email account. I had reset the password for her and set up a recovery email address my own. I had also logged her into her iPad, which she used primarily for recipes and Facebook. I had never snooped. I respected their privacy, but today, privacy was a luxury we could no longer afford. I logged into the email provider. I typed in my mother's address. I typed in the password I had set for her grandkids 2020, wishful thinking on her part. As neither Marissa nor I had children, it worked. I went straight to the search bar and typed Marissa. Hundreds of emails popped up. Most were mundane, forwards of jokes, photos of cats, scheduling for holidays. I filtered by date, looking at the last 30 days, and there it was. An email thread with the subject line, houseplan/logistics. My heart hammered against my ribs as I clicked it, from Marissa Ward to Evelyn Ward. Date 3 weeks ago. Mom, stop worrying. I talked to Gary. He says as long as the paperwork looks right, the county clerk just stamps it. They process hundreds a day. They do not have time to be detectives. I scrolled down. From Evelyn Ward to Marissa Ward. I just feel bad. Marissa. Ella worked hard for that house. And what if she finds out about the loan from Marissa Ward to Evelyn Ward? She won't find out. We pay off the HELOC as soon as the house sells. We give her a little cash to keep her quiet. You guys take your share, and I take my commission. Everybody wins. Besides, you said it yourself you loaned her the down payment. It is technically your money. We are just unlocking it. I will handle the quitclaim. I will handle the notary. You just need to keep her busy at Sunday dinner so she doesn't check her mail for notices. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Keep her busy. That was why they had invited me over. That was why they were so chatty. They were distracting me while they robbed me. But the real smoking gun was an attachment in the thread. It was a screenshot of a text message conversation between Marissa and a contact labeled Gary, notary. I opened the image. Marissa. Hey Gary, I have those docs for the Ward property. The grantor can't make it to Oakhaven. She is indisposed. Can we do a remote acknowledgement, Gary? Technically, I need to see her on video, but for Mark's daughter, I trust you. Just bring the ID copy and the signed deed. I will stamp it. $50 cash. Right, Marissa. You are a lifesaver. Lunch is on me. No one checks this stuff closely anyway. Owen, I said. My voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the room. He looked up. What? I found it, I said. I found the conspiracy in writing. I turned the laptop around. Owen read the emails. He studied the text screenshot. His jaw tightened. This is it, he said softly. This is not just fraud. This is criminal conspiracy, solicitation of a felony, notary fraud, and she admits she knows the system is weak and plans to exploit it. He looked at me. We have enough to bury her. Ella, we can take this to the state commission today. We can hand this to the district attorney. They will revoke her license or the license she doesn't have, and they will likely charge her. I looked at the screen. I looked at the sister who had dismissed me as a data entry clerk. The sister who had called me selfish for wanting to keep the roof over my head. She had sold me out for $50 cash to a crooked notary. No, I said. Owen blinked. No, Ella. This is the evidence. If we send this now, I said, thinking fast. She will deny it. She will say the email was hacked. She will say she was joking. She will claim she never actually went through with it, that the deed on file was a mistake. She is slippery. Owen, you saw how she lied to those buyers on my front porch. So what do you want to do? Owen asked. I want to catch her, I said. I want to catch her acting as an agent. I want to catch her presenting the forged documents to a third party. I want her to say the words out loud, on record, to someone who isn't family. I paced the kitchen. The plan was forming in my mind, sharp and jagged. She thinks she lost the deal with the Millers on Saturday, I said. She is desperate. She needs a buyer. If she doesn't sell the house, she can't pay off the debts she is hiding. The HELOC is frozen now because of your call, but she doesn't know that yet. She thinks she is still in the game. You want to send in a straw buyer. Owen realized. He leaned back, a look of appreciation crossing his face. Do you have someone, I asked, someone she wouldn't recognize, someone who looks like they have money? Owen smiled. I have a private investigator I use for corporate espionage cases. His name is Julian. He looks like a tech bro who just cashed out stock options. He drives a Porsche. Perfect, I said. Have Julian call her. Tell him he saw the coming soon sign which she probably put up and took down, or say he heard about the listing through the grapevine. Tell him to offer cash. A quick close. No inspections. Marissa will drool, Owen said. She will not be able to resist. And tell him to demand a private showing, I said. Tomorrow, here. You are going to let her back in. I am going to let her hang herself. I said, I will tell Mom and Dad I am reconsidering. I will tell them I felt bad about the scene on Saturday. I will say I am open to selling if the price is right. I will lure them in. It is risky, Owen warned. If things go wrong. Things won't go wrong, I said. Because this time, I will have cameras. I will have the house wired for sound. And when she hands Julian that disclosure packet with the forged information, when she claims she represents the owner, we will have it all. I looked back at the email. No one checks this stuff closely anyway. She thinks she is smarter than the system, I said. She thinks she is smarter than me. She's about to find out that the data entry girl knows how to build a trap. I will call Julian, Owen said, picking up his phone. We will need to prep the house. Audio recording laws in Colorado are one-party consent, which means as long as you or Julian are part of the conversation, we can record it, but we need to be careful. I won't be in the room, I said. I want her to feel safe. I want her to think she is won. I will be listening from the basement or the garage. Julian will be the one asking the questions. What questions? The questions that send people to prison, I said. Who signed the deed? Do you have the authority to sell? Are there any liens we should know about? I closed my laptop. The anger I felt was no longer hot and explosive. It was cold. It was the calculated, precise anger of a professional who has found the discrepancy in the ledger and is preparing the final audit report. My family had treated me like an asset to be liquidated. They had stripped my name from my home and replaced it with a forgery. They had bet everything on the assumption that I was too weak, too nice, or too stupid to fight back. Marissa wanted a sale, I would give her a sale, but the only thing closing tomorrow would be her career. The phone felt heavy in my hand, like a physical weight rather than a piece of glass and metal. I stood in the center of my living room, the same room Marissa had tried to invade 48 hours earlier. I had rehearsed the script in my head a dozen times. I needed to sound defeated. I needed to sound like the daughter they expected me to be, soft, pliable, and ultimately obedient to the family hierarchy. I dialed my mother's number. It rang 3 times before she picked up. Hello? Evelyn's voice was cautious, likely expecting another fight or perhaps a lawyer on the other end. Hi, Mom, I said. I let my voice drop, infusing it with a fatigue that was not entirely faked. I have been thinking a lot about Saturday. Oh, Ella. She sighed, the tension immediately draining from her tone. I knew you would calm down. Your father has been sick with worry. We are a family. We do not sue each other. I know, I said. I do not want to fight anymore. It is too much. If you and Dad really need the money, if the family really needs this. We do, honey, she interrupted, her voice gaining that familiar, cloying sweetness. It is just equity. It is just money. We can always find another house, but we cannot replace family. Okay, I said. I am willing to sell, but I have one condition. Anything, she said. I do not want a parade of strangers walking through my bedroom. I lied. I do not want open houses. I actually have a friend, a connection through work. He is a private investor. He buys properties in cash. He is looking for something in Westbridge. Cash. My mother's interest piqued instantly. Does he pay market value? He pays above market if he likes the property, I said. He wants to see it tomorrow. If Marissa can handle the showing professionally, and if we can get a clean offer, I will sign. Oh, thank God, Evelyn cried out. I heard her cover the mouthpiece, shouting to my father in the background. Mark, she agreed. She has a cash buyer. She came back on the line. Marissa will be thrilled. She was so upset. Ella, she really wants to make this work for you. Tell her to be here at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, I said. And tell her to bring the paperwork. The investor, his name is Julian. He is very particular about documentation. He moves fast. She will be there, Mom promised. I am so proud of you, Ella. You are finally seeing the big picture. I hung up. The nausea was immediate. The big picture she referred to was the dissection of my financial future for their benefit, but I pushed the sickness down. I had set the stage. Now I had to rig the theater. Tuesday morning arrived with a sky the color of slate. At 8 o'clock, Owen Price arrived at my back door, accompanied by a man who looked like he had just stepped out of a Forbes magazine cover shoot. Ella, this is Julian Vance, Owen said. Julian extended a hand. He wore a navy blazer over a crisp white t-shirt and designer loafers, the uniform of the modern tech millionaire. In reality, Julian was a forensic investigator Owen used for corporate espionage cases, a man whose acting skills were as sharp as his legal knowledge. Nice to meet you, Ella, Julian said. His voice was smooth, confident, and utterly disarming. I understand I am in the market for a bungalow with a complicated title history. You are, I said. Are you wired? Julian tapped the pen in his breast pocket. High-definition audio and video, wide-angle lens, battery life of 6 hours, and I have a secondary audio backup on my keychain. And the house? I asked Owen. We placed 2 cameras while you were at work yesterday, Owen said. One in the living room inside the smoke detector casing, one in the kitchen, disguised as a USB charger. We will catch every angle. The state of Colorado is a one-party consent state for recording conversations. You are the party consenting, as long as you are present in the house, even if you are not speaking. Their expectation of privacy is nullified in your own home. Marissa is going to lie, I said. I need her to lie on the record. She will, Julian assured me. I know exactly what buttons to push. I am going to ask about the title. I am going to ask about the ownership structure. And I'm going to ask about her credentials. All you have to do is play the role of the submissive sister. Let her take the lead. Let her feel like the expert. I can do that, I said, though my stomach twisted at the thought. I will be in the van down the street, Owen said, monitoring the feed in real time. If she gets suspicious, or if things get volatile, I come in. But otherwise, let the tape run. We need her to commit the fraud in front of a third party. Owen left through the back. Julian went to his car, a rented Porsche Cayenne parked around the block, to wait for his cue. I sat on my sofa and waited. At 9:45, Marissa's Audi pulled into the driveway. She did not slam the door this time. She stepped out, checking her makeup in the side mirror, carrying a thick leather portfolio. She walked up the path with a bounce in her step. I opened the door before she could knock. "Ella?" She beamed, attempting to hug me. I stiffened but let her arms encircle me for a brief, suffocating second. "Mom told me everything. I knew you would come around. Honestly, this is so much better. A private buyer that saves us so much marketing hassle." She walked past me, scanning the room. "The place looks decent. Did you move that coat rack like I said? Good. It opens up the flow." She set her portfolio on the kitchen island, the same island where Owen and I had dissected her crimes 2 days ago. She started pulling out glossy brochures. "So, who is this guy?" Marissa asked. "Mom said he is an investor." "His name is Julian Vance," I said, keeping my voice low and devoid of eye contact. "He represents a private equity group. He buys properties, renovates them, and holds them as rentals. He has a lot of cash." Marissa's eyes practically glowed. "Perfect." I printed out a fresh comparative market analysis. I bumped the price to $550,000. If he is institutional, he won't care about an extra $20,000. She looked at me, tilting her head. "You look tired, Ella. You are not going to be weird, are you?" "Just let me do the talking. I am the professional here." "I will let you handle it," I said. "I just want this over with." "It will be over soon," she promised, patting my arm with a condescension that made my skin crawl. "And then you will have your share, and Mom and Dad will have theirs, and everyone is happy." The doorbell rang. Marissa straightened her blazer, flashed a terrifyingly bright smile, and whispered, "Showtime." I opened the door. Julian stood there, looking at the house with a critical, appraising eye. "Mr. Vance." Marissa stepped in front of me, extending her hand. "I am Marissa Ward, the listing agent. Welcome." "Julian," he corrected, shaking her hand firmly. "Nice neighborhood. Quiet. I like that." "It is very sought after," Marissa gushed, leading him into the living room. "Inventory here is historically low. This is a rare opportunity." I trailed behind them, leaning against the wall near the hidden camera in the smoke detector. Julian walked the perimeter of the room, tapping the walls, checking the window frames. He was convincing. He looked like a man who bought houses like other people bought groceries. "The finish is good," Julian noted. "Updated electrical." "Fully permitted," Marissa said. "My sister, the owner, took great care of the infrastructure." Julian turned to look at her. "So you represent the seller exclusively?" "Yes," Marissa said. "I am the exclusive listing agent." "And you are licensed in Colorado, obviously," Julian asked casually, as if it were a throwaway question. "My compliance team is strict. We only deal with agents in good standing. No offense, just protocol." "Of course," Marissa laughed, a high tinkling sound. "Licensed and active. I am a top producer with Premier Real Estate. You can look me up, though I think the state website is down for maintenance today. Government tech, right?" "Right," Julian smiled. "Strike one. Representing oneself as a licensed agent while inactive is a violation. Doing it to a potential buyer is fraud." Julian moved to the kitchen. He ran his hand along the granite countertop. "Let's talk about the title," Julian said. "I do clean deals, no probate issues, no liens. Who holds the deed?" Marissa hesitated for a fraction of a second, then recovered. "It is a family-owned property. Technically, the title is held by Ella Ward and her parents, Mark and Evelyn Ward. It is a shared investment vehicle." "Shared?" Julian raised an eyebrow. "So it is a tenancy in common, or joint tenancy?" "Joint tenancy," Marissa said confidently. "Mom and Dad own 40%, Ella owns 60%. But do not worry. I have power of attorney to negotiate for the parents. They are fully on board." 40%, Julian repeated. "That is a significant interest. Is that recorded?" My title guys are going to pull the abstract first thing in the morning. It is recorded, Marissa said. We filed the adjustment a few weeks ago to formalize the investment. I stepped forward. This was my cue. Marissa, I asked softly, keeping my face blank. I forgot. Which document was that? The one we filed, I know Mom mentioned it, but I never got a copy. Marissa turned to me, her eyes flashing a warning to shut up. It was the quitclaim deed, Ella. Remember, we sent it over to the county? Right, I said. The quitclaim, and that was last week. 3 weeks ago, Marissa corrected, turning back to Julian. It is all in the system, perfectly legal. The parents put up the down payment, so we just adjusted the title to reflect their equity. Standard family trust stuff. Julian nodded slowly. And you have a copy of that deed in the disclosure packet? I do, Marissa said. She reached into her portfolio and pulled out a staple-bound stack of papers. She handed it to Julian. It was the forgery. She had actually brought the forgery to the showing. Julian flipped through the pages. He stopped at the quitclaim deed. He studied it for a long moment. The silence in the kitchen was absolute. The hidden camera in the charger was pointing directly at them. Interesting, Julian said. I see the notary stamp here. Gary Sunev, Oakhaven County. Yes, Marissa said. He is a family friend, very reliable. And this signature, Julian said, pointing to the scrawl above my name. Ella Ward. He looked up at me, then back at the paper, then at Marissa. It looks a little rushed, Julian observed. Compared to the signature on the original grant deed here, he flipped back a few pages to the legitimate document I had signed 5 years ago. The loop on the E is different. Marissa laughed nervously. Oh, you know how it is. Ella was in a hurry that day. We were trying to catch the FedEx truck to get it to the recorder's office. She just scribbled it. So she signed it in your presence? Julian asked. The trap was set. Yes, Marissa said. Right at this kitchen table. I watched her sign it myself. Then I drove it down to Gary to get it stamped. I felt the blood drain from my face, not from fear, but from the sheer magnitude of the lie. She had just confessed to witnessing a signature that never happened. She had confessed to taking a forged document to a notary. And you are sure, Julian pressed, because if the title insurance company flags a signature discrepancy, it delays closing. I need to know the chain of title is ironclad. It is ironclad, Marissa insisted, her voice rising slightly. Ella signed it. Mom and Dad signed it. It is done. You are buying from the family. There are no loose ends. Julian closed the folder. He placed his hand on top of it. Okay, he said. That is what I needed to hear. He looked at me. Ella, you are okay with this price, $550,000. If Marissa says it is fair, I said, then I guess it is fair. Great, Julian said. I will have my legal team draw up the offer letter this afternoon. Cash, 10-day close, but I need to take this packet with me, for due diligence. Absolutely, Marissa said, relieved that the interrogation was over. Take it. Call me as soon as you are ready. I can get the electronic signatures from Mom and Dad in 5 minutes. I bet you can, Julian said. There was a dryness to his tone that Marissa missed completely. He turned to leave. Marissa followed him to the door, practically skipping. You won't regret this, Julian, she called out as he walked to his Porsche. It is a gem of a house. She closed the door and spun around, pumping her fist in the air. Yes, she hissed. Did you see that $550,000 cash? Ella, we are rich. She ran over and grabbed my shoulders. I told you I could do it. I told you I was a pro. Did you see how I handled him? He ate it up. I looked at her. I looked at the sister who had just sold me down the river for a commission check she would never cash. You were very convincing, I said. I need to call Mom, she said, pulling out her phone. We need to get the payoff statement for the mortgage ready. And hey, since I got $50,000 over asking, I think we should talk about bumping my commission to 4%. Fair. We can talk about it, I said. At the closing? Perfect. She tapped away on her screen. I am going to head out. I have to go, update my file at the office. You sit tight. Do not touch anything. We are under contract. Basically. She grabbed her bag and breezed out the door, leaving the scent of cheap perfume and expensive lies in her wake. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner. Then I walked to the window and watched Owen's van pull up. Owen and Julian walked into the kitchen. Julian placed the disclosure packet on the counter. "Did we get it?" I asked. Owen held up a tablet. He pressed play. On the screen, in high-definition video and crystal-clear audio, Marissa's voice rang out. "I watched her sign it myself. Then I drove it down to Gary." "We got it," Owen said. "She claimed to be licensed when she is not. She claimed a false ownership percentage. She admitted to witnessing a forged signature. And she admitted to transporting the fraudulent instrument to the notary." Julian loosened his tie. "She didn't even blink. She lied about the signature being rushed without a second of hesitation. That is a practiced liar." "It is enough for the Real Estate Commission to bury her," Owen said. "It is enough for the district attorney to indict her, and it is certainly enough to invalidate the quitclaim deed." I looked at the video freeze frame of my sister's face, smiling confidently as she destroyed her own life. "What now?" I asked. "Now," Owen said. "We invite the whole family to a meeting. We tell them it is to sign the closing papers for Julian's offer." "But it won't be a closing," I realized. "No," Owen said. "It will be a deposition." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. It wasn't the thrill of revenge. It was the chilling realization of what I was about to do. I was about to walk my parents and my sister into a room and drop a guillotine on them. "Set it up," I said. "Friday afternoon. Tell them to bring champagne." Owen nodded. "I will have the court reporter ready." I looked around my kitchen. It was still my house, but it felt different now. It was no longer just a home. It was evidence. And I was no longer just a daughter. I was the witness for the prosecution. The conference room at Price Associates was designed to intimidate. It was a glass-walled aquarium suspended 20 floors above the Denver skyline, featuring a table made of a single slab of polished slate and chairs that cost more than my first car. I had chosen this venue deliberately. My parents were used to kitchen table politics, where guilt and volume were the primary weapons. Here, in the sterile air conditioning of high-stakes litigation, their emotional manipulation would have no echo. I sat at the far end of the table, flanked by Owen. On the screen embedded in the wall behind us, the logo of the firm rotated slowly, a silent reminder of the hourly rate that was currently running. The door opened, and the receptionist ushered them in. Marissa led the charge. She was wearing a white dress that looked suspiciously bridal, or perhaps just aggressively celebratory. She carried a bottle of Veuve Clicquot in one hand and her leather portfolio in the other. Behind her, my parents, Mark and Evelyn, walked in with the swagger of people who believed they had just won the lottery. "There she is," my father boomed, his voice too loud for the acoustic dampening of the room. "The smart one finally seeing reason." "This place is fancy," Marissa commented, setting the champagne down on the slate with a heavy clunk. "Is this where we are signing? Where is Julian? I have the DocuSign ready, but wet signatures are fine too." "Sit down," Owen said. He did not stand up. He did not smile. He did not offer them water. The three of them hesitated. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. They pulled out the heavy leather chairs and sat, the scraping sound harsh against the silence. "Where is the buyer?" Marissa asked again, looking at the empty seats. "Julian said he wanted a 10-day close. We need to get the ball rolling." "There is no buyer," Owen stated. His voice was calm, professional, and utterly devoid of warmth. Marissa froze, her hand halfway to her hair. "Excuse me, we have a verbal agreement. He took the disclosure packet. If he is backing out, I will sue him for specific performance. You cannot just—" "Julian Vance is a forensic investigator," Owen interrupted, cutting through her bluster like a scalpel. "And the only thing he was buying was evidence, which you provided in abundance." My mother let out a nervous laugh. "Ella, what is going on? Is this a joke? We came here to celebrate." I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had raised me, who had sat across from me at Sunday dinner and lied to my face while passing the rolls. "We are here to review the paperwork," I said. "Specifically, the paperwork you filed with the county 25 days ago." Owen tapped a key on his laptop. The large screen behind us flickered. The rotating logo disappeared, replaced by a high-resolution scan of the quitclaim deed. It was blown up to 4 feet wide, the details inescapable. "I want to go on the record," Owen said, his eyes scanning the three of them. "Who physically took this document to the notary in Oakhaven?" The silence that followed was suffocating. My father shifted in his chair, his gaze dropping to the table. Marissa turned pale, her eyes darting between the screen and me. "I asked a question," Owen pressed. "This document transfers 40% of my client's property to Mark and Evelyn Ward. It claims to be signed by Ella Ward. Who filed it?" "Well," my mother started, her voice high and wavering. "It was a family administrative matter. We discussed it. Remember, Mark? We talked about securing the asset." "Who filed it?" Owen repeated, louder this time. "Marissa handles the paperwork," Evelyn blurted out. She pulled her hand away from where it had been resting near Marissa's arm. "She is the agent. She told us it was standard procedure to protect our investment. We just did what she said was necessary." Marissa's head snapped toward our mother. The betrayal was instant and absolute. "Mom, you told me to get it done. You said you needed the equity on paper so you could qualify for the loan." "Loan?" Owen asked, raising an eyebrow. He clicked the next slide. The screen changed to show the HELOC application. $150,000 pending. "We are not here to discuss our personal finances," my father grunted, his face turning a dark shade of red. "This is private. We have rights. We put money into that house. We are entitled to it." "Let us talk about that money," I said. I slid a file folder across the long table. It stopped directly in front of my father. "Open it," I commanded. Mark stared at the folder as if it were a bomb. Slowly, he flipped it open. "That is the amortization schedule for the $12,000 you gave me," I said. "And behind it are the bank statements for 60 months of payments. Every single check, every single transfer, including the final payoff I sent 4 months ago." "We never," my father started, his voice rough. "Do not say you never received it." I cut him off. "I have the deposit receipts from your bank. I have the email where you asked for an interest rate adjustment. You treated me like a customer. Dad, you charged me interest. That makes it a loan, not an investment, and a loan that is paid off gives you 0% equity." "It does not matter," Marissa shrieked, slamming her hand on the table. The veneer of the professional was gone, replaced by pure panic. "Ella, stop being such a lawyer about this. Mom and Dad need the money. Who cares about the technicalities? You have a house worth $500,000 and you live alone. You are hoarding wealth while they are struggling." "So you forged my signature?" I asked softly. "I helped," Marissa yelled, tears springing to her eyes. "I was trying to help. Do you know how hard it is for them? They are seniors. They deserve a retirement. I signed it because I knew you would be too selfish to do it yourself. I did what had to be done to save the family." "You committed a felony," Owen corrected. "You committed forgery. You committed filing a false instrument. And by the way, you did it while unlicensed." He clicked the screen again. The video from the hidden camera in my kitchen began to play. Marissa's voice filled the room, clear and damning. "I watched her sign it myself. Then I drove it down to Gary." Marissa gasped. She covered her mouth with her hand, shrinking back into her chair. "That is me," Marissa whispered. "You recorded me in my home," I said, "where you were trying to sell property you do not own to a man you thought was a fool." "This is entrapment," my father shouted, standing up. "You cannot do this to your sister. We are your parents." "Sit down, Mr. Ward," Owen said. His voice wasn't loud, but it had the weight of an anvil. "Unless you want to discuss the perjury charges you will face if you claim under oath that you witnessed that signature." My father sank back down, He looked defeated. The bluster was gone. He looked old. Why? I asked him. I looked directly into his eyes. Why $150,000? Why now you have your pension? You have Social Security. You have your house. Why did you need to steal mine? My father looked at my mother. Evelyn was weeping silently, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, refusing to look at anyone. "Tell her, Mark," my mother whispered. "She's going to send us to jail. Just tell her." My father let out a long, shuddering breath. He placed his hands on the table and clasped them together, the knuckles white. "I am being sued," he said. The words were so quiet I almost missed them. "Sued for what?" I asked. "Do you remember Uncle Jerry?" he asked. "From the lodge. The guy who sells solar panels." "He needed a guarantor," my father said, his voice trembling. "For a business loan, 2 years ago. He said it was a sure thing. Government contracts, easy money. I co-signed. I closed my eyes. I saw it all. The predatory lenders, the smooth-talking friend, the gullible retiree who wanted to feel important. He defaulted, I guessed. He disappeared," my father corrected. 6 months ago, the bank came after me. They are calling the note, $140,000, plus legal fees. If I do not pay, they are going to put a lien on our house. They are going to take your mother's car. They are going to garnish my pension. He looked up at me, his eyes wet. "We were going to lose everything, Ella, everything we worked for. So you decided to take what I worked for instead," I said. "We were going to pay you back," Marissa interjected, trying to pivot back to the hero narrative. "That was the plan. We take the HELOC on your house, pay off Dad's debt, and then when the market goes up next spring, we sell your place, pay off the HELOC, and give you the rest. It was a bridge loan, just like they gave you." "Without asking me," I said, "without my consent, you were going to saddle me with $150,000 of debt, ruin my credit, and force me to move, all to cover up Dad's bad business decision. We were trying to protect you from the stress," my mother sobbed. "We didn't want you to worry about us." "No," I said, standing up. "You didn't want the embarrassment. You didn't want to admit that you made a mistake, so you decided that my property was actually your safety net." I walked over to the window. The city looked small from up here. The cars were just little metal specks. "You know what the worst part is?" I asked, turning back to face them. "If you had asked me if you had just come to me and said, 'Ella, we are in trouble. We are going to lose the house,' I would have helped. I have savings. I could have taken out a legitimate loan. I would have done it because I loved you." They looked up, hope flickering in their eyes. "But you didn't ask," I continued, my voice hardening into steel. "You stole, you lied, you forged, you brought a stranger into my home to photograph my bedroom. You tried to gaslight me into believing I owed you." "Ella, please," my father pleaded. "I am scared. I cannot be homeless at 70. "You won't be homeless," I said. "But you are not getting my house." I nodded to Owen. "Here is the situation," Owen said, sliding a new document across the table. It was a settlement agreement. "We have prepared a revocation of the quitclaim deed. You are going to sign it right now, in front of a legitimate notary I have waiting in the next room. This will restore the title to Ella Ward as the sole owner." "Okay," my father said quickly. "We will sign. Immediately. Second," Owen continued, "Marissa, you are going to sign a voluntary surrender of your real estate license. I know it is already inactive, but this prevents you from ever renewing it. You are done in this industry." "What?" Marissa gasped. "No, that is my career. That is how I make a living." "You don't make a living," I said brutally. "You have zero income and a mountain of debt, and you use your license to commit fraud. Sign it, or we send the video to the district attorney." Marissa looked at the champagne bottle she had brought. The celebration was dead. She looked at Owen, who was holding his phone, ready to hit send on an email that would destroy her. "Fine," she spat. "I will sign. And third," Owen said, looking at my parents, "the HELOC application. You are going to withdraw it formally, and you are going to sign an affidavit stating that the previous application contained false information regarding ownership. But the debt, my father whispered. The lawsuit. What do I do? That is not my client's problem, Owen said cold-heartedly. However, because Ella is more generous than I advised her to be. He looked at me. I took a deep breath. I will not give you money, I said, but I will pay for a bankruptcy attorney, a real one, not one of your friends from the lodge. You can file for Chapter 13. You can restructure the debt. You might save your house, but you have to do it legally, and you have to do it without me. Bankruptcy. My mother looked horrified. But the neighbors, the shame. The shame is better than prison, I said. And make no mistake, if you ever try to touch my title again, if I ever see another document with my name on it that I didn't sign, I will not call Owen, I will call the police, and I will press charges. Is that clear? My father nodded slowly. He looked at the amortization schedule of the $12,000, the money he had used to justify his entitlement. He pushed it away. It is clear, he said. Good, Owen said. He pressed a button on the intercom. Send in the notary. The door opened. A woman in a gray suit walked in with a stamp and a logbook. I watched as they signed. I watched my father's hand shake as he signed the deed revocation. I watched Marissa cry silent, angry tears as she signed the surrender of her license. I watched my mother look at the floor, unable to meet my gaze. They had walked in as a united front, arrogant and entitled. They were leaving as three broken individuals, stripped of their delusions. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt a profound, hollow sadness. I had saved my house. I had protected my future. But I had lost the illusion that I had a family who cared about me more than they cared about their own survival. When the last signature was dried, I stood up. You can leave now, I said. Ella, my mother said, standing up shakily. Sunday dinner, we can just talk. No, I said. I think I will be eating alone for a while. They shuffled out of the room. Marissa forgot her champagne. It sat on the table, warm and unopened, a monument to a victory that never happened. Owen closed the folder. You handled that well. Did I asked, looking at the empty chairs. You established boundaries, Owen said. It is painful, but it is necessary. They were drowning, Ella, and they were climbing on your shoulders to breathe. I nodded. I looked at the screen, where the image of the forged deed was still displayed. Delete it, I said. Delete it all. Done, Owen said. But I knew that while the file could be deleted, the memory of seeing my own parents rationalize my destruction would stay with me forever. I had my house, but the home I thought I had grown up in, that was gone. The days following the confrontation in Owen's office should have felt like a victory lap. I had the confession. I had the signed revocation. I had stopped the immediate theft of my equity. But victory in a family war does not feel like winning. It feels like surviving a car crash where you are the only one who walked away. But you still have to look at the wreckage. Owen was ruthless in his efficiency. On Monday morning, he filed the emergency title freeze with the county recorder. It was a legal straitjacket for my property, ensuring that no document, not a deed, not a lien, not even a permit could be recorded against my parcel number without my direct, notarized consent and a court order. Simultaneously, he sent a formal notice of fraud to Centennial Trust, the lender my parents had tried to use for the HELOC. The letter was brutal. It attached the affidavit my parents had signed under duress, admitting the application contained false information. The loan was dead before it ever left underwriting. My role was different. Owen handled the defense. I had to handle the offense. I sat at my desk, staring at the website for the Colorado Division of Real Estate. The complaint form was long and tedious, asking for specific statutes violated. I didn't need to look them up. I knew them by heart now. Complaint against Marissa Ward, inactive licensee, nature of violation, unlicensed practice, misrepresentation, facilitation of fraudulent instrument. I uploaded the video file of Marissa claiming to be licensed and in good standing. I uploaded the email where she conspired with the notary. Clicking submit felt like pulling a trigger. I wasn't just reporting a bad agent. I was ending my sister's career. I was taking the thing she defined herself by her status, her top producer persona, and I was dismantling it. Next came the police report. Owen had advised me to update the initial report with the new evidence. I went to the station in person. The desk sergeant, a tired-looking man named Officer Miller, looked at the stack of documents I placed on the counter. "This is the supplemental," he asked. "Yes," I said, "including a confession regarding the forgery." He flipped through the transcript Owen's paralegal had prepared. "Your sister?" he asked, looking up. "Yes." "And your parents?" "Yes." He shook his head. "Cold world. Ms. Ward. Very cold." He stamped the file. "Received." That stamp was the line in the sand. It moved the issue from civil dispute to criminal investigation. The police might not arrest them today, but the file was open. If they ever tried this again, if they ever scammed another person, this record would be there waiting for them. The backlash was immediate. My phone began to ring at 6:00 p.m. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. At 6:15 p.m., my father called. Voicemail. At 6:30 p.m., the text started. "Mom. Ella, please pick up. The bank called Dad about the bankruptcy lawyer you mentioned. Are you really making us do this? Dad, we fixed the deed. Why are you still punishing us? We are family. Marissa, you reported me to the commission. Are you insane? I can't even work as an assistant now. You are ruining my life over a piece of paper I sat on my couch." The phone buzzing against the cushion like an angry hornet. The guilt was a physical weight in my chest. It whispered that I was being too harsh. It whispered that they were old, that they were desperate, that Marissa was just stupid, not evil. But then I looked at the wall where I had rehung my framed deed, the real one, and I remembered the feeling of seeing my signature forged. I remembered the cold calculation of the HELOC application. I picked up the phone and typed a single message to the group chat. "Ella, I am not punishing you. I am protecting myself. You committed crimes? You tried to steal $150,000 from me. If this was a stranger, they would be in jail. Being family does not give you immunity. Family should mean you protect each other, not prey on each other. Family means you follow the law." I hit send. The response was immediate. Marissa called. I stared at the screen for a moment, then answered. I needed to hear it. I needed to know if there was any remorse, any understanding of the gravity of what she had done. "What is wrong with you?" Marissa screamed the moment the line connected. She sounded hysterical. "I just got an email from the commission notifying me of an investigation. They are going to pull my license permanently. I will be blacklisted." "You should have thought of that before you forged a deed," I said calmly. "I didn't steal anything," she shrieked. "The house is still there. You didn't lose a dime. Why do you have to be so vindictive? You are so selfish. Ella, you sit in that big house all alone, with no kids, no husband, just your money, and you can't even help your own parents." "I am helping them," I said. "I am paying for their bankruptcy lawyer, which is more than they deserve." "You are humiliating them," Marissa yelled. "And you are destroying me. I have debts. Ella, I have car payments. How am I supposed to pay them if I can't sell houses?" "Maybe you should sell the Audi," I suggested. "Or maybe you should get a job that doesn't require a license you clearly don't respect." "You are a monster," she spat. "You think you are so superior with your compliance job and your rules, but you are empty. You have no heart." "I have a heart," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "It is just broken, because my sister looked at me and saw a paycheck. I saw a way out," she cried. "We were all drowning. You were the only one with a life raft, and you wouldn't share it." "I wasn't a life raft," I said. "I was a victim, and you weren't asking for help. You were looting." "You are selfish," she repeated, the word a mantra of her delusion. "Selfish, selfish, selfish. You hold on to that house like it is a person. It is just wood and brick. And you are holding on to a fake reality," I said. You are holding on to a status you didn't earn, and you were holding on to my house with a fake piece of paper." I hung up. I blocked her number. I sat in the silence, the echo of her accusations bouncing around the room. Selfish. Was it selfish to want to keep the home I paid for? Was it selfish to refuse to be the collateral for my father's bad debts? No. That was the gaslighting. That was the weapon they used to keep me compliant. My phone buzzed again. It was Owen. "Owen, new development. I need you to check your email." I opened my laptop. Owen had forwarded a report from his private investigator. Julian. Subject: additional findings. MLS backchannels. Ella. While we were digging into Marissa's activity, Julian found something disturbing. It turns out she wasn't just relying on the public MLS. There is a private Facebook group for off-market pocket listings in the Denver metro area. It is used by wholesalers and flippers to move properties quickly, usually for cash, bypassing the standard market scrutiny. Attached is a screenshot from 4 days ago. I opened the attachment. It was a post from Sarah Jenkins, the profile Marissa was using. Post: hot off-market deal in Westbridge. 3-bed, 2-bath. Motivated sellers. Title issues being resolved. Seeking cash buyer, willing to close with quitclaim. Price $480K for quick sale. DM for details. $480,000. She was willing to sell it for $40,000 less than the market value she had quoted me. She was discounting my home to move it fast, specifically targeting cash buyers who were willing to overlook title issues. The date on the post was 2 days before the Sunday dinner. They had been trying to sell it out from under me before they even told me they wanted to sell it. They were actively marketing it to sharks. If one of those cash buyers had bitten, if they had found someone shady enough to accept the forged deed, I could have come home from work to find the locks changed and a stranger living in my living room. This wasn't just a desperate scramble. This was a premeditated liquidation. I felt a cold sweat break out on my neck. The betrayal went deeper than I thought. They weren't just incompetent. They were malicious. They were willing to throw me to the wolves, the "we buy ugly houses" crowd, just to get their hands on the cash a few days earlier. And there was more. Owen's email continued. Also regarding the notary. Gary Sunev. I pulled his record. He has been flagged twice before by the Secretary of State for procedural irregularities. In 2018, he notarized a vehicle transfer for a dead man. He got a warning. He is not just a sloppy notary. Ella, he is a fixer. He is the guy you go to when you need a lie stamped. My father knew him. They served together. My father knew exactly who he was calling. He didn't call Gary because he was a friend. He called him because he was corrupt. I closed the laptop. I walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of water. My hand shaking so hard, I spilled half of it on the counter. I realized then that the fear I was feeling wasn't about the house anymore. The house was safe. The legal walls were up. The fear was about the void that had opened up beneath me. I had spent my entire life believing that, despite our differences, my family loved me. I believed that if I was in trouble, they would be there. I believed that the Sunday dinners, the birthday cards, the awkward holidays, they meant something. But they didn't. To them, I was just another resource. I was an asset to be managed, leveraged, and liquidated the moment their comfort was threatened. They didn't hesitate to sacrifice my security. They had tried to sell my home on a black market Facebook group. I looked at the empty chair where Marissa had sat, laughing about the commission. I looked at the spot where my father had sat, demanding family rights. They were strangers. Worse than strangers, they were enemies who knew the keypad code to my garage. I went to the back door and punched in the programming code for the digital lock. I deleted the user code labeled parents. I deleted the user code labeled Marissa. The electronic beep of the lock confirming the deletion sounded like a gavel banging down. I was safe, but I had never felt more alone. The legal battle was winning, but the emotional war was a massacre, and I was the only casualty. The silence that filled my house after the confrontation was not peaceful. It was heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. I had revoked the deed, reported my sister, and watched my parents sign away their pride in a high-rise conference room. I thought I had reached the bottom of the well. I thought I had seen the entire architecture of their betrayal. I was wrong. The floor was about to drop out from under me again. It was Wednesday morning, 3 days after the meeting, when Owen Price called. He did not use his usual crisp, professional greeting. "Ella," he said, his voice tight, "we just got the full file from Centennial Trust, the lender your parents applied to." "I thought that was over," I said, putting down my coffee cup. "They withdrew the application. We sent the fraud notice." "It is over," Owen said, "but you need to see how they got as far as they did. I sent you a secure PDF. Open it. Page 12. I opened my laptop, my fingers feeling cold against the trackpad. I downloaded the file and scrolled down. Page 12 was a document titled Specific Power of Attorney. It was dated 25 days ago, the same day as the forged quitclaim deed. I, Ella Ward, hereby appoint Evelyn Ward as my attorney in fact, with full power and authority to encumber, mortgage, or sell the property located at my address. At the bottom was my signature, again, that same looped, shaky forgery that Marissa had tried to pass off as mine, and next to it, the notary stamp of Gary Sunev. "They forged a power of attorney," I whispered. "That is how they were going to do the closing without me." "Exactly," Owen said. "Marissa knew she couldn't drag you to a closing table. So she created a legal loophole where Mom could sign for you, but that is not the twist. Ella, look at the disbursement instructions on the loan application. Page 15. I scrolled down. Usually, when you take out a home equity line of credit, the funds are available via a checkbook or transferred into the borrower's personal checking account. I expected to see my parents' joint account number listed, the one I had paid my loan into for 5 years. I did not see their names. Wire instructions for initial draw, $150,000. Beneficiary name, Sunridge Renovations, LLC, Bank Regional West Bank. Sunridge Renovations. I read the name aloud. Who is that? A contractor. That is what I wondered, Owen said. So I ran a corporate search with the Colorado Secretary of State. And Sunridge Renovations, LLC was formed 14 months ago, Owen said. The registered agent is Marissa Ward. The room spun. Marissa, I asked. Marissa owns the company receiving the money. She is the sole member, Owen confirmed. I dug a little deeper. I had Julian pull the permits associated with that LLC. Marissa bought a distressed property on the east side of town last year. A fixer-upper. She took out a hard money loan, high interest, short-term, to buy it and renovate it. She was trying to flip it. Let me guess, I said, the nausea rising in my throat. The flip failed. Catastrophically, Owen said. The project is stalled. There are stop work orders from the city for unpermitted electrical work, and there are 3 mechanics' liens filed against the property from unpaid contractors. She owes the hard money lender a balloon payment of $120,000 that was due last month. She is facing foreclosure on her investment property. I sat back, staring at the screen. The pieces of the puzzle shifted, forming a picture that was far uglier than simple parental desperation. My father had told me he needed money because he was being sued for his co-signed loan. That was likely true. My parents were indeed in financial trouble. But Marissa had hijacked their crisis. She played them, I realized. Owen, she played them. How do you mean? Dad needed money for his lawsuit, I reasoned, my mind racing through the logic of the con. He was panicked. Marissa stepped in as the savior. She probably told them, "We will take out a loan on Ella's house to pay off your debt." But the wire instructions, the money wasn't going to Dad. It was going to Sunridge. She was going to pay off her own hard money loan first, Owen surmised. She probably promised them she would finish her flip, sell it for a profit, and then give them the cash for Dad's lawsuit. She was using your equity to bail out her failed business, using Dad's panic as the moral justification. She used my parents as a shield, I said. The anger that flared in me was white hot. She knew I would hesitate to sue Mom and Dad. She knew I would feel guilty about Dad's retirement, so she put their names on the quitclaim. She put Mom's name on the power of attorney, but the money was going straight to her LLC. It explains why she was so desperate to sell your house when the HELOC got delayed, Owen said. She has contractors breathing down her neck. She needs cash, and she needs it yesterday. Your house was just a piggy bank she was trying to smash open. I looked at the wire instruction again. Sunridge Renovations, a generic name designed to look like a legitimate vendor. My parents probably didn't even read the fine print. Marissa likely told them, "Oh, that is just the escrow company," or "That is the account we use for tax purposes." And they believed her, because she was the successful one, the top producer. "She didn't just steal my identity," I said, my voice shaking. "She embezzled from our parents. She set them up to take the fall for a felony so she could pay off her bad real estate gamble." "It changes the narrative," Owen said. "Your parents are co-conspirators. Yes, they signed the documents, but Marissa is the architect. This is sophisticated fraud. Ella, she created a shell company, forged a power of attorney, and manipulated two elderly people into committing a crime to cover her own insolvency." "I want to see the property," I said suddenly. "What?" "The flip," I said. "The house she bought. I want to see what my life was being sold to pay for." "I will send you the address," Owen said, "but do not get out of the car, and do not engage." 40 minutes later, I parked my sedan across the street from a dilapidated ranch-style house on the east side of Westbridge. The address matched the one Owen had sent for Sunridge Renovations. It was a wreck. A dumpster sat in the driveway, overflowing with debris. The windows were covered in plywood. A bright orange sticker was slapped on the front door. "Stop work order. Code violation." This was it. This was Marissa's empire. This was the top producer lifestyle. A half-finished, rotting house that she couldn't afford to fix and couldn't afford to sell. I imagined my sister standing in this driveway, looking at this disaster, and realizing she was ruined. And instead of owning it, instead of declaring bankruptcy or asking for help, she turned her eyes toward my home. She looked at my stability, my paid-off renovations, my clean title, and she decided she was entitled to burn it all down to save herself. I looked at the house, and I didn't see a business failure. I saw malice. My phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at the screen. I hadn't spoken to her since they left the office. I took a deep breath and answered. "Ella." Her voice was small, fearful. "I know about Sunridge Renovations," I said. I didn't say hello. I went straight for the jugular. There was a silence on the other end, a long, confused silence. "Sun what?" Evelyn asked. "What is that?" "The company Marissa set up," I said. "The company that was going to receive the $150,000 from the loan on my house. Did you know the money was going there?" "No," Mom said, her voice trembling. "Marissa said she said the money would go into an escrow account. She said she would manage it to pay off your father's settlement and then invest the rest to pay back the loan." "She lied to you, Mom," I said. "Sunridge is her failed house-flipping business. She has liens on a property across town. She owes over $100,000 to hard money lenders. She wasn't taking the money to help Dad. She was taking it to pay her own debts." That cannot be true," my mother stammered. "She is doing so well. She just bought a new car." "She is broke," I said. "She is unlicensed. She is drowning in debt. And she used you. She made you sign those papers. She made you risk jail time so she could bail herself out." I heard a gasp, then a sob. "She told us it was for the family," Mom cried. "She swore on your grandmother's Bible. Ella, she said she was saving us." "She was saving herself," I said. "She threw me under the bus, and she used you to drive it." "I have to call her," Mom said, panic rising in her voice. "I have to ask her." "Do not call her," I commanded. "If you call her, she will lie. She will spin it. She will tell you I am jealous or crazy. You need to listen to me. I am the one with the documents. I am the one with the truth." "What are you going to do?" Mom whispered. "I am going to finish it. I said. Owen is preparing the final file for the Real Estate Commission and the district attorney. We have the video of her confession. We have the forged power of attorney. We have the wire instructions to her shell company. Ella, please, Mom begged. She is your sister. She will go to prison. She belongs in prison, I said. The words tasted like ash, but they were true. She is a predator, Mom. She preyed on me. She preyed on you. If I let her go, she will do it to someone else. She will find another senior citizen, another family member, and she will ruin them. We will pay you back, Mom promised, desperate now. We will sell our house. We will give you everything. Just do not send her to jail. It is not about the money anymore, I said. I looked at the rotting house across the street. You cannot buy your way out of this. You broke the trust. She broke the law. There is a price for that. I hung up. I drove back to my house, my safe, clean, legally owned house. I walked into the kitchen where Owen was still working. You were right, I told him. My parents didn't know about Sunridge. They were useful idiots. Does that change your mind? Owen asked. About the prosecution. No, I said. It confirms it. Marissa is dangerous. She is willing to destroy her own parents to cover her tracks. Owen nodded. I have the hearing schedule. The State Real Estate Commission has granted an emergency session because of the severity of the evidence. They want to hear from you on Friday, and the district attorney's office has reached out. They are interested in the notary fraud and the wire fraud elements. Good, I said. There is one more thing, Owen said. He hesitated, tapping his pen on the desk. Marissa's lawyer contacted me an hour ago, a public defender type. Looks like she finally realized she needs representation. And they want to offer a deal, Owen said. Marissa will sign a confession admitting to administrative errors. She will agree to a permanent surrender of her license. In exchange, they want a non-disclosure agreement. They want you to drop the criminal complaint and agree not to sue for civil damages. They are offering you $10,000 as a nuisance settlement, I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. $10,000? I asked. She tried to steal $150,000. She tried to sell my home for $500,000, and she thinks $10,000 makes it go away. It is a standard opening offer, Owen said. It keeps her out of jail. It saves the family name from a public scandal. I thought about the Sunday dinners. I thought about the way Marissa would brag about her sales, making me feel small. I thought about the forged signature, the fake notary, the shell company. I thought about my father's shaking hands as he realized he had been used. No, I said. No counteroffer. Owen asked. No deal, I said. I do not want her money. I do not want her silence. I want it on the record. I want every real estate agent, every lender, and every title company in Colorado to know what she did. I want to make sure she never touches a contract again. If we go to the hearing, Owen warned, it will be public. Your parents will likely be called to testify. It will be ugly. It is already ugly, I said. Now it just needs to be truthful. I walked over to the fridge and pulled out a bottle of water. I felt a strange sense of calm. The confusion was gone. The guilt was gone. Tell the DA we are cooperating fully, I said. Tell the commission I will be there on Friday, and tell Marissa's lawyer that the only thing I will sign is her sentencing transcript. Owen smiled. A grim, respectful smile. I will draft the response. I looked out the window at my backyard. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the grass. I had defended my territory. Now, I had to clean up the mess, and that meant taking out the trash. Even if it shared my last name, I was done being the victim. I was done being the daughter. On Friday, I would be the executioner. The hearing room at the Colorado Division of Real Estate was sterile, smelling faintly of floor wax and stale coffee. It lacked the dramatic mahogany of a criminal courtroom, but the tension in the air was far heavier. This was not a place for theatrical arguments. It was a place where careers went to die. I sat next to Owen Price at the plaintiff's table. Across the aisle, Marissa sat huddled next to her public defender, a young woman who looked overwhelmed by the sheer volume of evidence stacked against her client. My parents, Mark and Evelyn, sat in the gallery row directly behind Marissa. They looked smaller than I had ever seen them. My father was not wearing his usual confident posture. He was slumped over, staring at his shoes. My mother was clutching a handkerchief, her eyes red and swollen. The chairperson of the commission, a stern woman named Mrs. Davis with glasses perched on the end of her nose, tapped her gavel. It was a sharp, final sound. "We are here to review the emergency complaint filed against Marissa Ward," Mrs. Davis announced. "Case number 492 regarding allegations of unlicensed practice, misrepresentation, fraud, and forgery. Mr. Price, you may proceed." Owen stood up. He did not need to shout. The facts were loud enough. "Commissioners," Owen began, his voice steady, "we are not here to debate a family misunderstanding. We are here to address a calculated scheme to defraud a homeowner of over $200,000 in equity and to saddle her with $150,000 in unauthorized debt." The respondent, Marissa Ward, acted as an agent while her license was inactive. She forged deeds, she forged powers of attorney, and she created a shell company to embezzle the proceeds. Owen walked to the projector. Exhibit A, the quitclaim deed, transferring 40% interest to Mark and Evelyn Ward. Exhibit B, the specific power of attorney granting Evelyn Ward the right to encumber the property. Both documents bear the signature of my client, Ella Ward. He paused, letting the images burn into the screens of the 5 commissioners. "My client did not sign these," Owen stated. "And we can prove it." He played the audio from the sting operation. The sound of Julian's voice asking about the signature filled the room. Followed by Marissa's clear, confident reply, I watched her sign it myself. Then I drove it down to Gary. Marissa flinched as her own voice echoed off the walls. She pulled her blazer tighter around herself, as if trying to disappear. "She lied to a potential buyer," Owen continued. "She claimed to witness a signature that never happened. She claimed to be a licensed agent in good standing, and she claimed to represent the owners when, in fact, she was robbing them." The door to the hearing room opened, and a man in a gray suit walked in. It was the representative from Centennial Trust, the lender. He took the stand. "Can you confirm the status of the loan application?" Owen asked him. "We had approved a home equity line of credit for $150,000. The banker testified. His tone was grave. "The underwriting was based entirely on the quitclaim deed provided by Ms. Ward. We were 48 hours away from wiring the funds to Sunridge Renovations, LLC. If the fraud alert had not been placed by the real owner, we would have disbursed the money." "And what is the bank's position on this?" Owen asked. "This is mortgage fraud," the banker said flatly. "It is a federal crime. We have already forwarded our file to the FBI." My mother let out a small whimper from the gallery. My father put a hand on her arm to silence her, but his hand was shaking. Marissa's lawyer stood up. She looked nervous. "Commissioners, my client admits to errors in judgment. She was under extreme financial pressure. She believed she was acting in the best interest of her family. She thought her sister would eventually agree. This is a domestic dispute that spiraled out of control, not a malicious enterprise." Mrs. Davis looked over her glasses at Marissa. "Ms. Ward, do you have anything to say?" Marissa stood up. She tried to summon the tears that had worked so well for her entire life. She looked at me, her eyes wide and pleading. "I just wanted to help my parents," Marissa sobbed, her voice trembling. "My dad was being sued. They were going to lose everything. Ella is successful. She has this big house all to herself. She is so rigid. She wouldn't listen. I just needed to borrow the equity for a few months. I was going to pay it back. I swear." She turned to the commissioners, clasping her hands. "Please, I have been a top producer for 10 years. Real estate is my life. Do not take my license. I made a mistake, but I did it for love. It was a good performance. For a second, I saw a flicker of sympathy in the eyes of one of the younger commissioners, but Owen was not done. "We would like to call our final witness," Owen said. "Mr. Gary Sunev." The air left the room. Marissa froze. She turned around to look at the door, her face draining of all color. Gary walked in. He looked like a man who had not slept in a week. He was wearing a rumpled suit and carrying a lawyer of his own. He had clearly cut a deal. He took the oath. "Mr. Sunev," Owen asked, "you notarized the quitclaim deed and the power of attorney in question. Did Ella Ward appear before you?" Gary looked at me. He looked at Marissa. He swallowed hard. "No," Gary said. "Then who signed the book?" Owen asked. "Marissa came to my office in Oakhaven," Gary said, his voice raspy. "She said her sister was sick and couldn't travel, but she said she brought her—" "She brought her?" Owen repeated. "Who did she bring?" "She brought a woman," Gary said. "Blonde, about 30. She had a fake ID with the name Ella Ward on it. Marissa told me it was her sister. She told me the ID was real. The woman signed the book. Marissa signed as the witness." The room went dead silent. It wasn't just a forged signature. It wasn't just a lie told over the phone. Marissa had hired an imposter. She had found someone, coached them, provided them with a fake ID, and driven them 3 hours to Oakhaven to physically impersonate me. My mother gasped, loud enough to be heard by everyone. "Marissa," she whispered. "You said Ella signed it at the table." Marissa didn't answer. She stared straight ahead, her jaw locked. "So to be clear," Mrs. Davis said, her voice icy, "the respondent did not just fudge paperwork. She staged a fraudulent signing event with a decoy." "Yes, ma'am," Gary said. "I didn't know until the investigator showed me the real Ella Ward's picture today. That is when I knew I had been played." That was the nail in the coffin. The "I did it for family" defense crumbled instantly. You do not hire an actress and forge government identification cards for family love. You do it for criminal gain. Mrs. Davis didn't even need to consult with the other commissioners. She wrote something on her notepad and looked up. "The commission has heard enough," she said. She looked at Marissa with pure disgust. "Marissa Ward, your license is hereby revoked, not suspended, revoked. You are permanently barred from holding a real estate license in the state of Colorado. Furthermore, given the testimony regarding identity theft and wire fraud, we are formally referring this matter to the district attorney's office with a recommendation for prosecution. You are fined the maximum administrative penalty of $10,000 per violation. That is a total of $40,000. She banged the gavel. "This hearing is adjourned." Marissa collapsed into her chair. She put her head in her hands. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at our parents. She was alone in the wreckage she had built. I stood up. I felt light. The weight of the last week, the weight of the betrayal, lifted off my shoulders. I walked out of the hearing room. Owen followed me. My parents hurried after us, catching up in the hallway near the elevators. "Ella," my father called out. His voice was cracked. I turned around. They looked at me. And then they looked at Owen, and then they looked back at me. They finally understood. They understood that they were not the owners. They were not the partners. They were the victims of their own daughter, and they had almost helped her destroy me. "She hired someone," my mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. "She hired someone to pretend to be you." "Yes," I said. "She planned it. Mom, she planned it weeks ago. While you were inviting me to dinner, while you were asking me about my job." "We didn't know," my father said. He reached out a hand, but he didn't dare touch me. "Ella, you have to believe us. We thought we were just claiming what was fair. We didn't know about the fake ID. We didn't know about the shell company." "I believe you didn't know the details," I said. "But you knew you were taking my house. You knew you were forcing me, and that was enough." "What do we do now?" Mom asked. "The bank, the lawsuit." "You call the bankruptcy lawyer," I said. And you deal with it. You are adults. Can we come over? Dad asked. Can we just sit down as a family? I looked at them. I looked at the people who had raised me, who had taught me to be honest, and who had thrown all of that away for a quick payout. No, I said. The word hung in the air, sharp and final. For the next 6 months, I said. Any communication goes through Owen. Do not call me, do not text me, and do not come to my house. Ella, please, Mom sobbed. You are our daughter. I am, I said. And that is the only reason I am not pressing charges against you for signing that power of attorney. Go home, Mom. Take care of Dad. And let me heal. I turned and walked into the elevator. Owen stepped in beside me and pressed the button for the lobby. The doors slid shut, cutting off the image of my parents standing in the hallway, looking lost and broken. That evening, I stood in my home office. The house was quiet. The cameras were gone. The buyer was gone. The threat was gone. On my desk lay a fresh document Owen had given me. It was a certified copy of the title, stamped today. Owner Ella Ward. Encumbrances none. It was clean. The quitclaim was voided. The power of attorney was shredded. The HELOC was closed. The warning flag on the title meant that no one, not my parents, not my sister, not even me, could sell this house without a mountain of verification. I took the document and placed it in a simple black frame. I walked to the wall where I kept my diplomas and my certifications. I hammered a nail into the stud. I hung the deed right in the center. It wasn't a trophy. It wasn't a symbol of wealth. It was a reminder. It was a reminder that blood is not a binding contract. It was a reminder that people, even the ones who are supposed to love you, will show you who they really are when money is on the table. My sister had lost her career. My parents had lost their dignity. And I had lost the illusion of a happy family. But as I looked at that piece of paper, stamped with the seal of the county recorder, I felt a profound sense of peace. I had kept the one thing that actually belonged to me. I had kept my self-respect. And in a world full of forgery and fake smiles, that was the most valuable asset of all. I turned off the light and walked out of the office, closing the door firmly behind me. The lock clicked into place, and for the first time in weeks, I felt truly safe. Thank you so much for listening to this story on Maya Revenge Stories. I really hope you enjoyed following Ella's journey as she fought back against betrayal to protect what was hers. I would love to hear from you. Please comment down below and tell me where you are listening from. Are you tuning in from the US, the UK, the Philippines, or somewhere else? Let's get a conversation going in the comments section. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and smash the hype button to help this video reach more people who love a good justice drama. Your support means the world to us. See you in the next story.